So, this article is exploring single motherhood. And for so long, single mothers have been demonized. They have been the punching bag of society, as if they've made the decision to do this by themselves, and as if it is so bad to be the parent that stayed. These days, more women, other than just Black women, because let's be real, Black women have been the face of single motherhood. But now other races are becoming single mothers as well. And now it just seems like the tone is shifting a little bit. So let's explore this article from NPR and see what they're saying. This one's titled, How Women Over 30 Are Rewriting the Single Mom Narrative in America. It's 6 a.m. and still dark outside, but Adrien Rumley's two-bedroom apartment is alive with kinetic energy. A 4-month-old kitten darts around. A dog patters back and forth. Another cat stealthily watches the morning unfold from behind a chair. A 2-year-old is sleepily sucking on a pacifier and watching TV. The scene may seem chaotic, but 37-year-old Rumley's morning routine is running in clockwork precision. It has to. She's the only parent. An alarm beeps every few minutes, keeping her on schedule for the next morning task. Brush her kid's teeth, put on her work clothes, dab on a spot of makeup, get her daughter Laura Lee ready for daycare. I leave at exactly 7:02, Rumley says. I don't get stuck behind the school buses, and if you get stuck behind the school buses, then you're going to be late. Rumley is among millions of American single mothers raising children by themselves. These moms are likely never to have been married, and many don't live with partners. Today, 40% of all babies in the U.S. are born to unmarried women, a dramatic increase since 1960 when they made up only 5% of births. Increasingly, they are women over 30, like Rumley. This group has swelled in the number by over 140% in the last 3 decades, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Look at these 4 graphs. These are births to unmarried women by age group. So let's start down here. These are the teenagers. These are the girls 19 and under. Since 1993, this graph line has been trending down. Amazing, right? And then here's the 20 to 24-year-olds. So for a little bit of time, from 1993 to 2013, it trended up. And now it has been trending down. More young ladies are going to college than are getting pregnant, and that is amazing. So here we have the little bit older ladies, the 25 to 29-year-old cohort. So they went up from 1993 to 2013, and then it's just kind of leveled out. And like I said, these are the unmarried mothers. And then we have the older ladies. These are the 30 and over. So from 1993 to 2023, these ladies are getting older and they are having babies on their own, regardless of if they are doing it like single mother by choice or if these babies were unplanned or whatnot. It's just marking that these women are doing it by themselves. But also, since they are older, maybe they're more foundationally sound as far as finances, especially since this group, this cohort, the teenagers, is going down, which is a good thing. NPR spoke to over 24 single mothers in this age group, the over 30 age group. Up and down the income spectrum, they paint a starkly different picture than the persistent stereotypical image of single mothers as irresponsible and incompetent. That's partly because in the 80s and 90s, most of them were teenagers or in their early 20s. Today, that's less likely. Women over 30 have more life experience under their belts, and they're a lot more capable. They're more likely to have full-time jobs, more education, and earn more, all of which give them the power to choose. More importantly, they say, it has given them agency. Here's Danielle. She says, I felt like I had a fire lit under me. All right, it says Danielle Townsend from Philadelphia, who is now 36, remembers her 20s as a period of struggle after graduating from college. She was almost 30, working part-time at Trader Joe's when she found out she was pregnant. I felt like I had a fire lit under me. I was like, I have to figure my life out yesterday, she says. Townsend was in love with the father of her child, an artist, but she said they disagreed on how to raise their child, and his temporary gigs didn't supply the stable income she felt their nascent family needed. He wasn't even willing to try to find a better job that had benefits, she says. Under that strain, their relationship fell apart. Townsend remembers being in survival mode after their son, Caleb, was born. She signed up for food benefits. Determined to create a better life, she enrolled for a master's degree in librarianship. Those days, she says, were a blur of studying, lugging Caleb between her own dad's home and her son's dad's for childcare, and juggling part-time jobs, all in the middle of the pandemic. After graduating, she moved to Mississippi for a job, but being alone and far from home with a little child was hard. Even though she felt like she was making the right decisions, she could feel this dark cloud moving in, she recalls, this heaviness. And here they are, it looks like they are cleaning up a park. 2 years ago, she moved back to Philadelphia. She's now a librarian, a job she loves. Caleb, who just turned 7, is a budding environmentalist and wants to be a conservation scientist when he grows up. His favorite thing to do is go on trash walks with his mom, where they try to keep the city's parks and streets clean. They've even done that to celebrate his last birthday, when Townsend gifted him with a trash picker with a claw, to his utter delight. Today, Townsend dreams of buying a home, and she breathes a little easier. Okay, Danielle, she tells herself, you're not really in survival mode anymore. All right, it says, behind the new rise of single motherhood in America. According to Pew Research, the United States has the world's highest rate of children living in single-parent households, 23% compared to a worldwide average of 7%. One of the biggest reasons why more women have been choosing single motherhood is that they're financially better prepared to start families on their own. The number of women entering the workforce has skyrocketed in the last 5 decades. But those gains have come at a time when men have been dropping out of the workforce. Today, more women than men are enrolled in college, in master's programs, and in law and medical schools. This disparity in work and education means that many women in their mid-30s are ready to start families and support them, even if they haven't found male partners. All right, so this says IVF provides another path. Another imbalance is that compared to men, women's fertility declines faster with age. And there is research coming out that it is honestly men's reproduction and men's sperm that is also declining with age as well. But the talking points still haven't caught up to the research. So I'm just putting that out there. All right, but even still, let's get back to the article. So it says, so unlike men, women who want children can feel their reproductive clock ticking louder in their 30s and 40s. And a lot of the time, our clocks are ticking because society is calling us old, is calling us expired, is saying all of these negative things about women who age. So it's not always the research. Sometimes it's just the societal talking points. Some women like Susan Kufdakis are choosing IVF to have babies on their own. Kufdakis, an attorney who works with Florida's Department of Children and Families, finished law school and passed the bar in her early 30s. But when she hadn't met a romantic partner by the time she turned 35, she froze her eggs as a backup plan. Then she turned 37 and could hear her biological clock ticking. Of Greek Puerto Rican heritage, she dreamed of the perfect Greek Orthodox wedding, but she felt she needed to prioritize having a baby over waiting for that right person. I don't want to lower my standards just because I want a family. So she chose IVF. The process is invasive, expensive, and it could take several tries to conceive a baby. It wasn't easy on her either. So here they are. Here she is with her baby. Her son, Giannis, was born earlier this year after Kufdakis got pregnant on her second try. Each cycle cost her $38,000. She took on debt, and even though she wanted to live on her own, she currently lives with her parents who help with childcare. I don't think I could have done it without them, says Kufdakis, who is now 39. All right, it says single versus married parents. Not everyone has the option of moving in with their parents, and many sociologists and economists who study families say kids do better when there are two parents to raise them. Economist Melissa Kearney's book, The Two-Parent Privilege, How Americans Stopped Getting Married and Started Falling Behind, got a lot of attention from proponents of marriage when it was released 2 years ago. It argued that two married people together bring in more income and have more time to devote to their children. This is kind of long. I'm going to make this a part 2. So this is part 2 of the NPR article, How Women Over 30 Are Rewriting the Single Mom Narrative in America. So we ended talking about the economist Melissa Kearney's book, The Two-Parent Privilege, How Americans Stopped Getting Married and Started Falling Behind. These resource advantages then set children up with more opportunities to get ahead in life, Kearney wrote in her book. It cited data that showed compared to two-parent households, a third of children in single-parent households spend their lives in poverty, and many don't graduate from high school or go to college. But Kearney's research has also showed that children of older moms have an advantage over younger ones. Kids born to unmarried mothers over 30 were almost 3 times more likely to have college degrees and earn higher incomes as adults when compared to those raised by single moms who give birth in their early 20s or teens. Much of the research was based on the world's longest-running household survey, which followed 5,000 U.S. families with children born between 1960 and 1989, when there were fewer single mothers in America, and they tended to be younger. That data, however, hasn't yet caught up with the current generation of children raised by older single moms. As single mothers are much less likely to be teen or young mothers as compared to previous generations of single mothers, they are increasingly likely to be able to provide financially for their children, especially when it comes to avoiding poverty, Kearney said recently via email. The American family. Today's single moms still face structural disadvantages, including laws that provide overt legal or financial benefits to married couples. For instance, couples can save thousands of dollars by jointly filing taxes. They can also collect more Social Security. Those laws reflect a past centered on the institution of marriage and the nuclear family, a focus some political groups would like to bring back. The Trump administration is heavily influenced by Project 2025, a policy and staffing blueprint published by the Conservative Heritage Foundation think tank. It starts with a promise to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life. The first chapter opens with the argument that the American family is in crisis, partly because 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers and calls fatherlessness one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen self-deletion, and substance abuse. Heritage Foundation research fellow Delano Squires points out that not only are people having fewer children, they're waiting longer to have them. Marriage rates are declining and the number of children born to unmarried parents is increasing. Those are all troubling statistics, he says. To encourage marriage, Project 2025 recommends the use of government funding to provide a school curriculum on healthy relationships and sexual abstinence. This is going to make people want to have more babies and get married if they do this in school. These people are out of their minds. You can't have strong communities without strong families. You can't have strong families without strong, enduring marriages. But Jane Matz, who in 1981 founded the support group Single Mothers by Choice, says that what's most important for children is having a loving, stable home, regardless of how many parents are in it. Being born into a marriage does not guarantee anything as far as your stability or your functioning. Her group now counts 30,000 members, and she says although she's observed that women in the group with lower incomes struggle more, parenting is really the key, not your income. We're about to have one hell of a life together. As for Rumley in Winchester, Virginia, she can't imagine her life without Lorelai. She is just fierce and wild and beautiful and caring, and my life would be so much darker without her in it. Rumley's own journey started out as a surprise pregnancy from a boyfriend she'd been dating for barely 4 months. When she told him about it, he offered to pay for a termination. But she had always wanted to have a baby, and Rumley at 35 felt she didn't have time to wait for a picture-perfect husband. She told him she was keeping her baby. He responded by hanging up on her, and he has been absent from their lives since. And Rumley desperately wanted to chart a new course for her life. She started by naming her daughter Lorelai after the iconic single mom of the 2000 show Gilmore Girls. She went back to an old hobby, running. Soon she was running with Lorelai in the stroller, first a mile and then a 5K and then a 10K. She recently moved up in her career, landing a new job as an assistant So, as an assistant manager at a vet's clinic, she now earns $45,000 and she got her own apartment. She doesn't qualify for food benefits anymore. These days, Rumley is building a new community for herself in Lorelei. She joined a running club and is training for a marathon. She's made new friends at work and around town, other moms with whom she swaps play dates and babysitting duties in a pinch. She acknowledges that raising a child alone isn't easy. There isn't a second income to help pay the bills or another pair of hands to pitch in with the housework. I have got her 100% every single day, she says of Lorelei, and there is very little wiggle room for that. She also worries about the questions that Lorelei will ask or get from others about her absent father. But more often than not, she's relieved that she gets to make all the decisions for the family. I kind of have more control of how Lorelei and I get to take this journey, she says. And on any given day, she often remembers the moment just after Lorelei was born, when they first locked eyes. That was the moment that I knew we were about to have one hell of a life together. And that's the end of the article. And I have been sharing women's experiences. I have been reading Reddit posts. I've been sharing videos. Women are speaking about what it even means to be a mother within a marriage. Let's be real. Many women are still doing all of the work of a mother. They're doing all of the work that single mothers are doing. They're just doing it with some other adult in the household, some other adult that may or may not be doing anything with their kids anyway. So I believe that the stigma of being a single mother is slowly starting to raise, because the married single mother trope is here. The married single mother is a reality that some women are living in. So let's stop with the demonization of being a single mother, and let's stop acting like raising a kid in a two-parent household is always the end-all be-all. That's the reason why so many women get stuck in these relationships, because they think that they got to stick it out for the kids when they are actually harming their kids, when actually some of these kids might even be happier being in a healthy single parent home versus a two-parent home that has stress and walking on eggshells or whatnot. And with that, I'm going to end this. Let me know what you think. I thought that it was interesting. I am glad that, that Black women are not just the stereotypical face of being a single mother anymore. And I am so glad that it seems like motherhood is more intentional. Not everybody wants to have kids, but I do want the women who do want to have kids to do it in the way that they want to do it. Even if it's going IVF, even if it's going it alone, even if they know that they're not going to have any help and they have to recruit other mothers or recruit their parents if their parents want to. So y'all go ahead and chime in and let me know what you think.